Well, welcome everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Living Free. I'm so glad you're here. And I have the honor today to interview one of my newest friends, Gail Root. She has been such a gift and such a blessing in my life. And I'm just so thankful for the divine connector for bringing us together. And, you know, before we jump into anything else, you guys, I am beginning a new series here in my channel that is called Stories in Skincare, in which I'm going to be sharing with you women's testimonies and just God's goodness while we're having fun with skincare. Well, Gail is not here for me to slap mud on her face, but she has a really cool liquid gold on her desk right now. Do you want to show us that, Gail?
Yeah.
There you go.
There it is.
Yeah.
Blackberry leaf serum.
That's right. And tell me what you loved about it. You just recently started using it.
I did. So I have so this is kind of a funny story. Your audience will get a kick out of this. I was on a cruise some years ago, and all of the workers in this particular cruise ship in the spa area were from Ireland. So they had heavy accents, right? And so she's working on my face and she says, something about capillaries. And I'm like, capillaries. I'm like, what? And she says, your capillaries. And I'm like, capillaries. Yes, I have a lot of broken capillaries. Well, that was some years ago, and I have a lot more broken capillaries now. And when Lily was working with me, like trying to identify, like, what are those things about my skin that probably are most bothersome to me? I cover, like, I use all kinds of fancy covers. And even now, like, because of wearing my glasses all day, a lot of my cover is gone. But I am noticing, since I've been using this faithfully, that I'm like, whoa, I've gotten laser treatments and they just come back.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm really noticing that it's really reducing the amount of redness. And I've never really been diagnosed with like rosacea. It's really more of a hereditary broken capillary thing. But it's only going to get worse in my life. So having something like this, I'm super excited that it's all natural and it's working.
I know. I love that. Yeah. Capillaries. And how did she call them?
Capillaries. Capillaries. I was cracking up. I'm like, well, yeah, it is kind of PILL, capillary. But I mean, that was just, how they say it over there, I guess, obviously.
Yes.
Like, capillaries.
That's what you mean. That is so cool. I love that it's working. Your face is glowing. And friends, I'll drop a link at the end, but this is liquid gold. It's like, it helps with cell turnover, anti-blemish, anti-aging, all the things. So, but anyways, this is not about the serum. We're going to talk about Gail today. So I want to introduce Gail to you. And before I read you her bio, I just want to tell you how I see Gail, which is I see a woman who loves the Lord. I see a woman who is very purpose-driven. She's an impact maker. She is generous. She is such a giver and pours into God's daughters in abundance. Like, she goes above and beyond to bless God's daughters. She is just one of the kindest people that I have certainly met this past year. And she's also a kingdom entrepreneur, meaning that she is a woman who is building business for God's glory. And she is married and a mom and all those things. And so now I'm going to read you the formal bio, but that's how I see Gail. She's been such a gift to me. And actually, before I read this, I will say that when a mutual friend connected us, my friend was like, oh, you need to join this group. I mean, she didn't say your name. She just said, hey, there's this group that I recently joined. It's really cool. You should check it out. And my response was, another group. Like, how many groups can I be a part of? I can't possibly be engaged in all of these different groups. But she's a dear friend of mine. She's also a leader and a mentor in my life. And so I'm like, okay, if she says I need to be a part of this group, fine, I'll do it. But I didn't expect that anything would really come out of it. It was more like, okay, fine, Liz, I'll join it. And who knew that we would connect and actually develop a relationship? I'm like, oh my gosh, Lord, only you, the divine connector, right?
Yes.
So anyways, let me formally introduce Gail to you guys. So Gail, who is incredible. Her passion, Gail Root is a kingdom business coach for women of faith in the direct sales and network marketing industry. Her passion is watching her clients get results when they learn how to build their business on kingdom values so they can serve, prosper, and multiply at the highest level. After a couple of decades in leadership and direct sales and network marketing, she is now retired from over 2 decades of leading her team to $1 million in sales annually and earned multiple 6 figures. A carrot chaser who loves to travel, Gail earned more incentive trips than she can count. That's amazing. Okay, she was a national conference trainer, recruiter, and coach. She doesn't want you to know those things to impress you, but to impress upon you that she has lived it and she gets it. Today, she loves watching women of faith awaken to the truth that direct sales and network marketing are founded on biblical principles. They go from looking at their business as a little side hustle to understanding their business as a ministry in the marketplace, and they rise up. I love that so, so much. That is exactly what you do. And so tell us a little bit more about yourself besides that. Like, just tell our audience some things about you.
Yeah. So, as you said, married, we've been together for about 30 years, married for 28. We have 3 sons. 2 have graduated from college. The baby is a junior in college. They're all Penn Staters. We're up in the Northeast, and, big football love family. And my husband and I own a brick and mortar business. We bought a 125-year-old schoolhouse, got it on the National Historic Registry after major renovations, and then turned it into a wedding venue and tavern. So he kind of oversees the tavern part of it, and I oversee the events, which was my background back in the day. And we've been at it for about we've been open for over 7 years now. So we're kind of looking to see like what our next little adventure might be and where we might head and things like that. So God's always planting new dreams and new visions, and some of them very old dreams that are coming more to fruition now. So very exciting. Yeah.
That is so cool. Wow. Your baby is a junior, you said?
Junior in college.
Time
He's 6'4". They're all really tall. We don't really know where that came from, but yeah, he's really not a baby, but he'll always be the baby.
Wow, that is so neat. So you said that you own a brick and mortar. How did you first get into entrepreneurship? How did that come about?
Yeah, so this is a fun little story, Lily. My grandmother, so Ellis Island, pregnant with my father, New York City, she's a worker. And she had now we're talking, early first quarter of the 19th century.
Wow.
And she says, she had a candy store, a newspaper thing. She just was always doing stuff. Well, then she started working in the garment district and doing piecework, which means she was paid for every piece she completed. And she would come home kind of excited. And my father was, I don't know, like 10 or 11 at the time. And he said, "Mom, why are you so excited about your work? Like, why are you like so happy about your work?" And because he was like, work isn't supposed to be fun. Why is she excited about it? And she said, I love it because I get paid for every piece I finish. And she said, and I'm good and I'm fast. And she said, like the woman next to me, she's kind of slow. She's kind of goofing off. She said, I don't get paid the same. So this was my father's introduction to paid for performance compensation, which what I believe the industry really is. I had been in corporate America and all of these seeds had been planted in my life. And I was like, I want to be paid in direct proportion to the amount of effort and energy I am putting into, because I knew and so I watched my father, even though he was corporate, I watched him in the industry. He was in the industry, led a very large company in the industry. And he was always a champion of women, Lily, and he had 5 daughters, but he was just always like, he started a direct sales company at one stage of his career. And all of these women were homemakers. Women didn't really work outside of the home at the time. My dad's 89. Thank you, Jesus. He's still alive. But women didn't really work outside of the home. And so watching him motivate them to be the homemaker, to be the wife, to be the mother of their children, but to have an income that was actually blessing others' lives. Yeah, it was really, just lots of seeds planted.
Wow. And so did you immediately launch into entrepreneurship, or you said you were in corporate at one point. So did you have a period where you were home with your kids, or were you always a working mom?
No, I was definitely home with the kids. And that was really my dream, was to, have a husband who could provide so that I could stay home with the kids. I mean, that was, the dream, and I'm living the dream. and having these babies. But there was a part of me that was, I wouldn't say I was diagnosed with like a clinical depression, but there, and not even really a postpartum, but there was a low level sadness about not having community, not having something for Gail. I was just Eric's wife and I was the kid's mom. And then I felt deep shame, Lily, that wasn't enough. I wouldn't even speak it because it was if I wasn't grateful.
Right.
To speak it out loud meant that, are you not grateful your husband's providing? Are you not grateful that you have you're home with these boys? This is what you always wanted. What is wrong with you? You know?
Right.
And then my sister introduced me to a company and I wanted drapes in my family room. And my husband's like, what are we going to put drapes on those windows for? We're not going to close them. And I was like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, Lord. And my sister called me within a very short period and she was out in Arizona at the time and I was in Pennsylvania and she said, I found something. I think you're going to be interested. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm very happy for you. I'm not interested. Well, fast forward, she kept dropping little seeds and, you know, so I bit and got my, you know, off to the races from there.
Wow, that is so cool. So how many years total did you say you were in the network marketing space?
Well, so my first job was in college. I'm 55. And in college, I signed up to sell World Book encyclopedias. It was a dare. It was a dare. I wanted a car. See, I'm back to that carrot chaser, but it was a dare. So that was over 30 some years ago. But then I always wanted to support women. So I was always buying the kits, right? I wanted the discount on the products and all the things. But it was 2003. When I really jumped into direct sales. And then I had then that company closed after about 12 years there. We had our brick and mortar and I thought I was done. And then I went into a network marketing company for a number of years and had some great leadership run there. And then God said, no, want you to get into Christian coaching. And so I thought I was leaving.
Yeah. So it's like, what was that transition like? You're thinking, I'm retiring. I'm good. I'm living.
Oh, I was like, I was done. I was not getting back in the industry. We had the brick and mortar business. We had the boys. I was done. And then, you know, had this health product and got back into the industry. And then I'm sitting in church and I needed not one more thing to do. And I know a lot of your women can relate to that. I needed not another thing to do. And I heard him tell me, Christian coaching. And I was like, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. I didn't have to pray about it. I didn't have to, I mean, it was just a word and it was very clear. And my husband was immediately on board, which normally didn't happen. There was normally like a negotiation, a conversation, like, what are you going to do? What's this going to mean? What's the investment?
I need an explanation. Yeah.
I explained nothing. I just said, you want to know what just happened in church in there? We're in the parking lot. So anyway, I thought I was leaving the industry and I was a little sad about it because I was so passionate about being a champion of women in this industry specifically. And then God was not giving me a green light to leave the industry. And finally he was like, why would I have you leave after you've spent decades here? You know, these are the women I want you to serve. And I was like, oh, thank you. Yes.
That aha moment of,
oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Lord.
Yes, that is so awesome. Well, I have been privileged to be a beneficiary of what you do to equip and empower, you know, God's daughters in this particular industry. And I had no prior experience. So I've been in the industry now for, I guess, if I consider pre-launch, before the soft launch, like the pre, then it's been 3 years. Yeah. But officially, it's been probably about 2.5 years. And you are such a tremendous gift. I've really enjoyed everything that you do. You know, for my audience who is watching, if you are in this particular industry, I would highly encourage you to look up Gail Root on Instagram, on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, join her group. And if you want to give us a quick shout out of how they can find you, what are your handle names and your group name?
So the easiest probably just to get to my personal profile, which is my maiden name is Gagliardi. So Gail Gagliardi Root, ROOT. If you go there, my links are there. Okay. I've changed my Facebook group name a couple of times because of different events that are going on. Right now it's called Position to Prosper, but at the end of October, that will be changing. So find me and my links will be in the bio there.
Perfect. That is perfect. Well, so one of the things that you did recently was a 3-day challenge. I believe it was a 3-day challenge, and it was Position to Prosper.
Yeah.
And one of the days you were talking about mindsets, and I was just thinking of how powerful that is, because we can do a lot of things. We can take a million courses in how to build with, video, how to build with podcasts, how to build like whatever, all these different things.
Yeah.
We can take all of those courses, but if this right here, if our mindsets are not in the right place, we're not really going to go anywhere. We're going to have limited thinking that is going to be our hurdle to moving forward. And so I was really blessed by that particular session. And not that you have to talk about all the mindsets, but if you want to address some of them and share with our audience and some of those mindsets that would benefit anyone, whether, because really they're going to benefit people regardless of whether they're in network marketing or they're in a different type of industry. So I would love for you to talk about those.
Yeah, and they affect our everyday life. So they literally are, you can make them specific to any one thing, but it's interesting, Lily, the Position to Prosper challenge. I've run a number of challenges over the years, and this particular one, though, it felt so spirit driven because I really was out of a heart. And I always am asking the Lord, help me serve my clients at a higher level. Help me understand their pain at a deeper level so I can help them get a win at a greater level. And so one of the things my clients I see happen over and over again, or like why they come to me, is they've tried the things. They've tried lots of things. My clients on average are usually in the industry like 7 to 10 years. So they're not new to the industry, and they love the Lord. And so they come because why aren't these things working? They know they're equipped. They know they're capable. God gave them the ability to lead. Why aren't things working? So it really usually isn't that thing that didn't work. They might have invested in a course or a thing, exactly what you said. It's that they weren't positioned
exactly
to be able to then implement what they needed to implement because of these mindset blocks. Often.
Right. Yeah.
So some quick overview, like we talk about the orphan mindset, the poverty mindset, scarcity mindset, that religious mindset, and that mindset that about money that says wealth is bad, especially for the Christian,
Yes.
So orphan mindset likes to tell you you're gonna be embarrassed. You're going to be left out. You're going to be rejected. This is the kind of stuff that when you're hearing women say things like, I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to be spammy. I don't want to be that person they're avoiding in the grocery store because I was inviting them to something. And that, it's that fear of what other people are going to think. It's that orphan mindset. And you have to get positioned that whose are we? I'm a daughter of the King.
Mm-hmm. That's
daughter of the King. I can never be abandoned. I can never be forsaken. I can never be. And therefore, then I move out of a place of I'm sharing and inviting with you. If you're interested, fabulous. If you're not interested, fabulous. I'll be here if you ever are. I still care about you. I still love you. And if you see me in the grocery store, I'm going to give you a hug, whether you want to know more about, so I don't have to walk around as that orphan feeling afraid. That poverty, the big one like that. This was a big shocker to me, how much of a religious mindset I carried. Mm-hmm. This idea of something's right, something's wrong, a very critical, judgmental spirit, very outward thinking. And what this does to us is it makes us think that our circumstances are determining our life when it's really inside of us. Absolutely. That's determining our perspective of all of those things. And so when you give up, if you find yourself annoyed with others a lot, annoyed with yourself a lot, you're probably falling into that critical thinking. And it's that like religious mindset that says that things somewhere along the way, somebody told you directly or indirectly, things must look like this. This must look like that. This person must behave like this in order to love you. This person must behave like this in order to, and all of it is like, no.
Yeah, we become very legalistic with that religious spirit, and it is a very critical spirit. So that's a really good way to explain it. Would you say that you feel that's the most predominant, like overarching limited thinking that women encounter, or is that just one of?
It's one of, I think everybody, we all have had some, deposits of trauma, of shame along the way in our life. And, I think our journey as believers is to be healed. right?
Absolutely.
We're transforming in levels that we're getting levels of healing. And as we mature, hopefully part of that maturity is as a result of the wisdom of our growing through some of those experiences and becoming aware of things, and then, you know, walking through them. So depending on where you are and what life experiences you had, that, like, you've heard things like what triggers you, what pushes your buttons. So
Right.
you and I, we might both have a very intimate relationship with the Lord, but there are some things in my life you might look at and be like, why is that upsetting her? And then I might, you might look in someone else's life and be like, how is she so happy? And she has this difficult thing going on. So, and it's all how we've, it doesn't mean that you're any more spiritual than the other person, or you're any closer to Jesus than the other person. It means that you probably either dealt with or not dealt with some of those, you know,
Right.
those shame or trauma moments that just need some
Yeah.
healing.
That's really good. Where does the one where this happens a lot in the Christian circle, but even more so amongst women for some reason, that whole idea that money is wicked, where does that one fall into? What mindset is that?
Yeah, well, you know, I think people just call it kind of like money mindset, but it doesn't, like, I like the wealth is bad mindset, you know,
Right.
and especially for women, you know, but here's something to turn that lie on its head so fast. And I wish I could cite an actual study or something, but here's what, and as soon as you hear this, you're going to know it's true.
Mm-hmm.
The most, the most generous demographic on the planet is the successful Christian businesswoman.
No way. That is amazing.
And if you think about that, doesn't that just make perfect sense? I mean, women by nature are givers. By nature are givers. By nature, women are filled with, you know, gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier for us to find gratitude. And forgive me to the guys. I know I'm stereotyping right now, but it's just, we are wired more for relationship. We're wired more with emotion and, you know, and so for us to feel a depth of gratitude, whether it's over our children, our marriage, our, you know, whatever, our relationship with the Lord. So imagine now you've got a successful Christian businesswoman who's making bank. The likelihood that, compared to a successful Christian man, it doesn't mean that he's not going to be a giver, but she's going to be like on the hunt for who she can bless, where she can give. She's going to build a well in Africa. She's going to, you know, she's going to come alongside a, you know, a house that is built for rehabilitating sex trafficked women. I mean, she's just like all in, right?
Yeah, they're more hands-on.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
And so that is, I've watched more women's eyes light up with the understanding that God gave you the ability. Now, you don't have to use it, but God gave you the ability to create wealth.
Absolutely.
And when you're doing it with him, that's righteous wealth. If you're not doing it with him, if you're doing it for the stuff, this is where women get, it's so easy to just ask yourself, what am I doing it for? Am I doing it with him, or am I doing it for the stuff? If you're doing it for the stuff, you're going to feel yucky.
Yes, that
But
is so good.
if you're doing it because you want to be a great blessing, and you want, because what does Jim Baker say? If God can get money through you, he will get money to you.
That's right. I know that's one of his one-liners. I love it. And I really want women to hear that. I mean, we could go in a lot of different directions, but there is a lot of guilt. There's a lot of mom guilt for women who feel like, I have the husband, I have the kids, just like you described. I'm so blessed and I'm so thankful. I'm living the dream. But what is this thing inside of me that's screaming out that I'm supposed to, that I'm called to more right now, and that I don't have to wait till all my kids are 18 years old and off to college, right?
Amen.
And we feel all this guilt over that. And it's like, why should we feel this guilt other than this religious, legalistic spirit that says all these horrible things? Yeah. Where it's like, no, I interviewed another woman. She's a local business owner. She owns a brick and mortar retail store, and she is a better mom and a better wife because she thrives as a business owner.
Amen.
It fills my cup. So when I go home, I'm overflowing and I can pour into my husband and into my children, and our family is more joyful. as a result of me doing what I've been called to do as an entrepreneur. And her kids don't take a back seat. They're all, they're more important than the business, yet she's called to do both. And when you talk about like the Proverbs 31 woman, I don't know about you, but I grew up being taught that she was Betty Crocker in the kitchen. She just popped out babies, changed diapers, and cooked meals. And when I heard Jamie Cross for the first time in her podcast break down the Proverbs 31 woman, I went, whoa, what? So I went and I looked it up for myself. I was a good Berean, and I went and searched out the scriptures for myself.
Yes.
And I read it in multiple translations. And I went, oh my gosh.
There it is. There it is.
This woman was an incredible business savvy entrepreneur. Her husband praised her. Her children called her blessed. She employed people because out of her abundance, she was able to bless people and trade and buy and do all these things. And so I want women to hear that there is no shame in God calling you to more, even now in this season of mothering. And there is no shame in building wealth with God. And a friend of mine told me at the beginning of my journey, this may sound silly to some, but I nearly hit a very high rank right out of the gate, and I missed it by like $100. And she says to me, Lily, be glad that you didn't, because you're not here to build fast cash. You're here to build wealth with God. You will reach that when you're ready to sustain it, which was the next one. But nonetheless, it was a really powerful nugget. I went, oh my gosh, you're so right. Like, we have to have that mindset of, I'm not here chasing shiny objects. I'm here, number one, because the Lord called me here. Number two, I'm building wealth for him, to glorify him. Yes, it's going to provide for my family, but it goes beyond that. It's a vehicle to provide for the vision and the mission that he's ultimately called us to. And so there is no shame in building wealth with the Lord. And if we simply will turn to scripture, Solomon, the wealthiest man on the earth to this day. You think that God was like, oh, you're dirty, you're wicked, you're nasty. Like, no, he blessed him. He blessed Jacob. He blessed Israel. Jacob was Israel. He blessed Isaac, Abraham, all these people throughout scripture. And I'm like, of course he wants to bless his daughters. Of course he wants to bless his children. This is not the poverty gospel. And when I say wealth as well, I'm not just talking about the financial aspect of that, but that we would prosper in health, spirit, soul, like every area of our life, that we would experience wealth and prosperity in every aspect of life.
Two quick things. One, on Solomon, it says that he loved God's people. And what does God love most? His people. And Solomon was after God's heart, and he followed what was most important to God, which was loving his people. And when God saw him loving his people well, he blessed him and blessed him and blessed him. And Solomon didn't become greedy because God blessed him. He became more in awe of what God was doing, wanted to love his people even more. So the wealth didn't corrupt Solomon because his heart and eyes were fixed on God. Can wealth corrupt? Yeah, but so can McDonald's,
Yes.
Okay. So that's a religious mindset that starts assigning, power to things that's just not there. And the other thing, when you were talking about wealth and women, there are so many men in the kingdom rising up to call out other men to stop putting God's daughters down, stop oppressing them in any way. They are completely capable of building wealth. They are capable of teaching. They are capable of speaking. And we are not to be, as men, marginalizing God's mission, their voice. They are half of the body of Christ. Right. And if you don't have a minister or anyone, you might have been hurt by the church or whatever, any church, any religion, trust me, thank you to YouTube, you can go find incredible pastors, incredible men of God that are preaching power to women to rise up. Still to love their husbands, still to love their families, still to love their children. But yeah, there are so many. The truth is, if God's calling you to it, you will be a better mother. You will be a better wife. I mean, my marriage was suffering because I was suffering. And so when I had my business, I still, I was still home with the boys. My boys really didn't know that mommy worked, and I was making 6 figures and they didn't know that mommy worked,
Right.
And so, I loved that. I loved that. But yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
That is so good. Well, as we begin to close, I do want to just quick rapid fire kind of address the scarcity and the poverty mindset, because I feel like those two are like they're brothers, right? This concept of lack and all of that. So if you want to give us a brief rundown of that, and then I would love to hear from you how people who are watching or who are listening, what are some nuggets on how to overcome these things?
Yeah. So, scarcity and poverty. Yeah. Very close, but yet very different in some ways. So scarcity is, when we find I'm with you, when we find ourselves saying, I don't have enough time. How many times a day do you think that thought? I don't have enough time. Or if I do this thing, so an opportunity opens up before you, but you say in fear, I don't have enough time because if I do that, it will take me under. When really what God might be calling you to is getting rid of some stuff that he never called you to in the first place, because you've got this opportunity that's going to bring you life and bring it abundantly. But you're saying no to it because you don't think you have enough time. So that's a scarcity mindset. Time's a big one. Talent is another one. I don't have enough talent. Hello. He doesn't call you because you're talented. He calls you because he's going to equip you.
Right. Because he calls you, not because you're super brilliant.
Exactly. I mean, my favorite thing, and I promise you, Lily, one day, and I will show it to you. I'm going to get those decals where you can type out and put it across my wall. And it says, this is the Lord speaking. He says, Gail, I'm not betting on you. I'm betting on my power to work through you.
Oh my gosh, that is so good.
It is one of the most powerful things I've heard in 2022. But now the poverty mindset. Here's one. I only want enough, Lord, to pay my bills. I mean, that's got to just break his heart. Because for a few things, one, you don't need him. If all you want is enough to pay your bills, you can do that completely on your own.
You can do that on your own, yes.
Completely on your own. And he wants to do it with you, and he wants to pour abundance on you. But if all you want because do you know how selfish that is?
It is.
But we don't. I hear women go, oh, because we think that all the time. We think that we're somehow being. It's just that martyr, I only want enough to pay my bills, Lord, not any more than that. Well, what if he wants to give you a lot more so that you can pour out a lot more?
Yeah, I know. It sounds very humble, but it's false humility.
It is false humility, big time. And so what we're saying is I'm deciding for you, God, how much I need. I'm deciding for you. And there's no kingdom in it. There's no belief in abundance in it. There's no belief in God's provision in it. There's no faith in it.
Yeah.
There's just this is all I want. I just want a little bit right here. Can you just give me? He's like, you can do that by yourself. You don't need me.
Yeah. But what if he wants to bless you, right? Run money through you, as Jim Baker said, to bless the people that he's called you to. Yeah. I mean, we have to dream so much bigger. We have to dream with God. If our dream is small enough that we can do it on our own, it's not the Lord. Amen. If it's big that it scares you, that's when you know it's God.
Exactly. And your question, though, what do we do about it? So there really is one thing, and I know I'm going to oversimplify it, but quite frankly, it is this simple. It is about your identity. If you don't believe that God is who he says he is, and therefore, you're probably not going to believe that you are who he says you are. And so if we don't believe that I'm really an heir, which I'm really a child, that means I'm a daughter of the King. I believe that there are really 2 realms, and scripture tells us this. So I believe that most of the time humans are walking in the earthly realm. They're living in discouragement, doubt, fear, worry, and just trying to send up a prayer. Lord, would you help me out here? And he's like, you know what? you're not living where I've called you to live. I have called you to live in the kingdom realm as my child, where there is abundance of provision, of wealth, of healing, of joy.
There's no lack.
There is no lack in time, no lack in healing, no lack in anything. When you step into that place, and I'm not saying it's easy, it takes obedience, it takes self-governance, it takes discipline. But when you get into his scriptures, and it might take what is a very tangible thing. You get out your pen and paper in the morning and you write down who does he say he is? And he's the Almighty, he's the good shepherd, he is the great I am. And you just keep going until you can't stop, or you go find more. Thanks to Google, you can go, who does God say he is? And you can just write them down, read them over and over again until you believe it so much that you feel you're being literally elevated out of the earthly realm and into the kingdom realm. And then you go through, who does he say I am? And you go through that list of who he says, because when you start moving in your life, in your marriage, as a mother, as a grandmother, as a businesswoman, when you start moving from that place of knowing who you are, this changes everything. Doors open, opportunities open, faith in abundance. It's like nothing you've ever experienced.
Wow, that's incredible. It says that 2P. So as you're listening, please make note of this. It's the key. The 2 keys are know who he is. Yes. Because that changes everything. And then know who he says that you are. And that just accelerates you even more. Yes. And it does sound simple. Now it sounds simple because it is, but it does take discipline. So we're not saying that it's the easiest thing in the world. But as we close, I want to share this quote from Jim Rohn. And I'm going to shorten the quote, but basically he said, we suffer one of 2 things, either the pain of discipline, which reminds me of Paul, encouraging us to continue to run the race before us, like be like an athlete. There's discipline in that, right? So we suffer one of 2 things, either the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Wow. Like, I don't want to suffer the pain of regret. I don't want to stand before the Lord one day. And I don't want those of you who are watching, listening, I don't want you to stand before the Lord one day and realize that you did not fulfill the things that he wrote for you on his scroll. Yeah. I want to go to the grave knowing that I fulfilled everything that he asked me to do. Is it scary? Well, sure. The enemy is always going to come with opposition, but you need to know who he is, whose you are, and who he says that you are. So, man, that is so good. Well, Gail, thank you so much for sharing with us today. I appreciate your time. Such an honor having you on my YouTube and podcast and all the things.
It's an honor to be here. Honored to be with you.
And for those of you who are watching, just remember, if you want to look up Gail, if you're in the network marketing space and you want to check out her group, you want to see what challenges she is running, just look her up by name, Gail Root. And I'll also provide the link to her profile. So because the group name changes frequently, but you will see it below as well so that you can follow her. And of course, give us a shout out if you have any questions. And if you have any interest in the liquid gold that we showed you at the very beginning, that blackberry leaf serum right there. Yeah, that one. I'm also going to drop the link for that below. So thank you all so much for watching and listening, and we will see you on the next episode.
Bye-bye.
Bye.